Yo, welcome back to another video. Today, we talking about your life as every police rank. So I don't have experience at every rank, but I do have experience in law enforcement. So I'm gonna just throw in a little bit of my 2 cents and kind of go from there. See what he got to say. I'm not sure if he has experience in law enforcement or not, but I'm just curious to see what he has to say when it comes to these ranks. So let's go ahead, jump to the video.
Level 1, the applicant. You apply to the police department. High school diploma, clean background, physical fitness test. You fill out the application. Pages of questions. Criminal history, drug use, employment gaps. 3 months later, you get called for testing. Written exam, psychological evaluation, physical agility course. You run, you climb walls, you drag a dummy representing a victim. You're competing against hundreds of other applicants. Then comes the oral board. 3 senior officers asking questions. Why do you want to be a police officer? What would you do if your partner was stealing? They're testing your judgment, your integrity, your composure under pressure. The background investigation starts. They interview everyone: your family, your friends, your ex-girlfriend, your high school teachers. They pull your financial records, looking for debt, looking for vulnerability. They check your social media, every post, every photo, every comment. 6 months after you applied, you get the call. You've been accepted into the police academy. Your life just changed forever.
So yeah, leading up to that process, yes, the application portion is long, it's tedious. My personal gripe with it is when you're applying to multiple departments, it is very annoying to have to keep doing that application over and over, because for every department, majority of applications are long. Some aren't even caught up with time, so you have to do a paper application, write everything out, and then you have to scan it, upload it, and then email it over to them. That junk is exhausting. But yeah, refilling out the same information over and over again is very frustrating, especially if you're one of those people who's lived at a lot of different addresses within, I think it's within a 10-year span. I don't even have that many, luckily, but I can only imagine putting all those addresses down. If you've had a bunch of different jobs, unfortunately, I do fall into that category. Putting all those different jobs, I think over a 10-year span as well, is annoying. He talked about a written exam. Down here in the state of Florida, I've only experienced a written exam once, and that was before I had my college degree. So that's why I had to go through that portion. But ever since I had the college degree, I haven't had to do one written exam. A lot of departments don't really require it, but I think it may be based on education if you have to do one or not. And then, yeah, the physical abilities test, psychological, polygraph, oral board, and I think that's everything that falls into that category. And like he said, he does they do reach out to everyone that you put down there, close friends, family, things of that nature, because they want to make sure that they're hiring somebody who's qualified for the position, not someone who's going to end up being a hindrance in the long run. Police Academy.
Level 2, the police recruit. The academy is 26 weeks, 6 months of intensive training. You wake at 5 a.m., physical training, running, push-ups, defensive tactics. You're getting in the best shape of your life.
For me personally, I wouldn't say it's the best shape of my life, but I was in really good shape after the academy. My dumb ass went into the academy unprepared. I don't know why I thought it was not going to be that bad, but I had a rude awakening going in there unprepared, and yeah, I definitely got my they definitely whooped my ass in the academy. But overall, with the academy, you do wake up very early. I only had to wake up that early because the academy I went to was about 50 minutes to an hour away from where I was living. So I was waking up even earlier just to get there on time. The academy is not that bad. Take it from a guy. Go in there physically prepared, mentally prepared. I think the hardest part for most people is the yelling in your face. It's not really disrespectful, and they're not really coming for you or anything like that. Sometimes they do when it comes to how you're performing, but they're never like take personal shots and things like that from my experience. Um, but I already had experience growing up with a father who would always be yelling in your face, so that didn't bother me. And a lot of people tend to struggle with the academic portion of it. I didn't have any issues with it. I thought it's very similar to biology, where it's memorizing what you're reading and then taking a multiple choice test in regards to the information. So that wasn't difficult to me. But overall, the academy has its good and its bad. I think the cool thing is the the whole perspective of breaking you down and bending you back up. I definitely experienced that. And going into the academy with a bunch of strangers for 6 months, and that those strangers turn into like brothers and sisters. It's actually it's a surreal feeling.
You study criminal law, constitutional law, use of force policies. You learn when you can stop someone, when you can search them, when you can arrest them. You spend weeks on the firing range. Glock 17, Remington 870. You shoot until you can hit targets under stress.
That part is not 100% true. You cannot, you don't just keep shooting until you can hit them under stress. It's more of you either learn it in the time you have or you don't. And you fail that high liability. And then there's other details behind that. But just to kind of break that down, in the state of Florida, from my understanding, it's all across the state. You get 2 weeks in high liability when it comes to firearms. Um, you do training, you do practice, or you do practice scenarios, I guess, or not scenarios. Excuse me. You do practices leading up to proficiency. Proficiency is the test. I think you get 3 trials on the proficiency, if I'm not mistaken. If you fail it, then you just keep moving through the process. And I don't think you can think you still complete it, but you don't actually get the proficiency stamp, like saying that, okay, this person is good with firearms, because there's 2 parts to it to pass it. You have to pass the written test and you have to pass the proficiency portion of it. um, so yeah, you spend 2 weeks on the range, and then you have to pass all the proficiencies in order to pass that part of it, and then you have the written as well, and then that'll get you through that high liability. If you don't pass proficiency but you pass the written, you just continue through the academy, and then you'd have to return in another academy class. If your department is nice enough, they'll pay for just that portion. Or you'd have to pay out of pocket, show up when that academy finally gets to firearms, and then you do it all over again. You just don't have to take the written again, but you do need to get through the proficiency portion. But yeah, that's kind of it. And then for highlights, just to let you know, it's firearms, first aid slash medical, driving, and defensive tactics.
You practice scenarios, domestic violence calls, traffic stops, active shooter situations. Instructors play suspects. They fight back, they run, they pull weapons. You learn the hardest lesson. Every call could be your last. Every traffic stop, every welfare check, every noise complaint.
They do drill that in.
Some recruits quit. They can't handle the stress, the pressure, the reality. The rest of you graduate on a Saturday. Your family attends. You receive your badge, your gun, your oath. You raise your right hand. You swear to protect and serve.
A lot of people do tend to quit because it is a lot of pressure, and that's the whole point of them putting that much pressure on you, because you want to be prepared so when you hit the streets, you're not folding. You want to know. They would rather eliminate you then early than they imagine a company sponsors you through something. They pay all this money, you get through the process, and then you finally get out there on the road and you're like, yeah, this isn't for me. It's like, dang, you couldn't figure that out before I spent all this money. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely understand it from a business standpoint. But yeah, you kind of figure that out while you're going through that process, because it is a lot. It is a lot. Trust me.
You are now a police officer. Level 3, the patrol officer. Your first assignment is patrol, the street, the front line. You're paired with a field training officer for 3 months. You don't make decisions alone. You observe, you learn, you survive. Your first shift is overwhelming. Radio traffic, codes, procedures. Your FTO handles everything. You just watch. Your first week, you respond to a domestic violence call.
A woman with a black eye, a drunk husband, kids crying in the background. You don't know what to say. Your FTO takes the lead, separates them, calms the situation, makes the arrest. Your first month, you make your first arrest, drunk driver. You conduct field sobriety tests. You handcuff him. You process him at the station. It feels surreal. You just took someone's freedom, put them in a cage.
It is a surreal feeling, very interesting. But I don't know if you necessarily say you get used to it. You just continue. You just do what you need to do. Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't know the best wording to put that in. But yeah, you don't really. I wouldn't say you get used to taking people's freedom. You just kind of or I'm sorry, you never accept it. You just get used to it, maybe. It depends on the person, because some people get the gun and the badge and they feel like they Superman, or they doing too much. From my perspective, from my experience, a lot of people who get a gun and a badge, most of these people that like I said, I've experienced, most of these people are losers in real life, and that gun and badge makes them feel good. It makes them feel strong, makes them feel like, okay, I can change the trajectory of what I was then to a new person now, because I have some type of power and authority. Yeah, anyway, I could speak on that subject a lot. Yeah, that's why you see a lot of fat, out of shape losers on the road, because that's what they were, and that gun in the badge ain't gonna change you just because you got the power to arrest people. But anyway, so I was gonna get into the portion. So you got the FTO process. That's not an easy process either. From my experience, mine was 3. What was that? It's 3.5 months. Yeah, because you got 3 means. You got the phase one, where, like he said, FTO is doing majority of the work. You just kind of understanding the job, start slowly memorizing things. A phase two is where usually you start driving. You start driving the calls. Your FTO is sitting in the passenger seat, and you're kind of doing a little bit more. So you're kind of doing, I would say, 50% of the work, especially depending on where you are in the process. Some people um, develop slower than others, but usually in phase two, you're doing 50% of the work. Phase three is where you're doing probably about 80%, 75 to 80% of the work, and your FTOs shouldn't have to butt in too much, but they're still there if you have questions and things of that nature. And then phase four is usually only 2 weeks, sometimes a week, depending on how fast you've really gotten through the process, and how fast you're grasping the information. That one, you're doing 100% of the work. You can't, they're just sitting there as if they were a civilian doing a ride along or something like that. It's like they're not even there. So you kind of just go out there and work calls and do what you need to do as if you were on your own.
Your FTO says it gets easier. It doesn't. You just get used to it.
Yeah, it doesn't
Your
get
first
easier. You get
year,
used
you
to it.
see everything: overdoses, suicides, car accidents, dead bodies. You respond to a fatal crash, a teenager texting and driving. The car is wrapped around a tree, the body is mangled. You help the coroner bag the remains. You go home that night. You can't eat. You can't sleep. Your girlfriend asks if you're okay. You say yes. You're lying. This is the job. You answer calls, you write reports, you testify in court. 90% boredom, 10% terror.
He's speaking facts. He's speaking facts. People ask you if you're okay. Most of the time, you say yes. Obviously, you see things that the average person would not see, um, and you kind of, depending on the person. For me, just compartmentalizing probably just came a lot easier. I've seen some pretty gorish calls. I've seen some pretty nasty calls. I've been on some pretty nasty calls. I've seen some stuff. I haven't seen as much as an officer with more experience as me, or depending obviously on where you're working, because some places you just don't see that much stuff. I work in a department where there is a bunch of action going on, so always something new every day. But anyway, back to that part. So the compartmentalizing is very important with this job. And if you're not okay, a lot of people are stubborn, but go seek some help. There is help out there. There's resources, especially with a lot of departments and where things are going nowadays. Go get that help because you will start to see from what I've seen, a lot of officers either don't know how to separate work and their actual real life. So that what they do is carrying over into their actual lives, and that tends to ruin relationships with girlfriends or wives, and then the family gets broken up if you have kids and everything. So having that balance is very, very, very important if you are going to get into this field. It is not easy. Um, there is a lot mentally. There is a lot. They like to talk about the physical aspects of it, but the mental aspects, you got to. It's very difficult to prepare yourself for it. But being able to reach out and get that help that's needed, if you need it, that's important.
Level 4, the senior patrol officer. After 5 years, you're experienced. You work alone now. You know the streets, the people, the patterns. You know which corners the dealers work, which houses have problems. You know the regulars, the frequent flyers, the ones you arrest monthly. You respond to the same domestic violence call for the 5th time this year. Same couple, same fight, same cycle. You arrest the husband, again. She'll bail him out tomorrow, again. You can't fix their problems. You can only respond to the calls.
Exactly. That you can only respond to the calls, as well as don't take any of the calls that you go on or most of the aspects of this job personal. You just show up and do your job as if you were working at Wendy's, Subway, or working as an accountant for a firm or something. You just show up and do your job. None of this is personal. Unfortunately, you arrest the same people. You tend to arrest and deal with the same people over and over throughout your career, because our judicial system is very, very bad, in my opinion. It's not good. Um, it's not actually m- making allowing these people to take accountability for their actions. It's kind of like, oh, here's a slap on the wrist. But we're gonna send you back out there because we don't want to take your freedom, and we're hoping that you'll end up figuring it out. But these people don't ever figure it out, and they just keep going doing the same thing over and over and over. Um, but anyway, so yeah, so you deal with the same type of people. And I see people on the road getting frustrated. It's like, why are you back out here? Why are you doing this again? There's no point in asking those questions. There's probably a laundry list on why they're doing what they're doing. Obviously, family, environment, all that plays a role in it. As well as sometimes you got to do what you got to do when you're in survival mode to keep the family going, and put food on the table. So
You make a traffic stop, broken taillight, routine. The driver is nervous, too nervous, something's wrong. You ask for license and registration. He reaches for the glove box. Your hand moves to your gun. Your heart races. He pulls out the registration, nothing else. You relax. But for those 3 seconds, you thought you might die. This happens weekly, monthly. The
traffic stops is one of the most dangerous situations an officer can be involved in, domestics as well. Um, it's kind of an adrenaline rush. I can only speak for how I feel. I wouldn't say I got paranoid. I did get used to it to a certain extent, to where it's like I'm walking up to a car. I don't always have my hand on my gun. There are certain situations that uh, I do where it's like, okay, this is a little sketchy. Window's really dark, can't see in, or you was hesitating to stop. There's a bunch of scenarios that could play in to why an officer would walk up and have their hand ready. So if something go down, you already prepared. But yeah, it's not one of those things where I ever overthought it or kind of panicked and realized that my life is always on the line, because that's just part of the job. You kind of had that realization in the academy because they drill that into you. Like he stated at the beginning, they treat every scenario, every call as if it's your last. So your heart rate goes up so much in the academy, and you already kind of get in your head, to where for me, when I got actually touched the road, I was actually a lot more calmer and had that expectation that this could be my last call. And for me, it's one of those, I'm gonna take my training and experience and do everything that I can to make it back home. But also at the same time, if this is my last shift or this is my last time on earth, it is what it is. I signed up for it, you know what I'm saying?
Fear never goes away. You just learn to manage it. You've made 200 arrests, written 1,000 reports. You've saved lives. You've ruined lives. You've done your job. Level 5, the detective. After 8 years in patrol, you're promoted to detective. You work investigations now, not 911 calls, actual cases. You're assigned to the robbery unit. Your first case is an armed robbery. Convenience store, suspect with a gun, $200 stolen. You review surveillance footage. You interview witnesses. You identify the suspect. You write a search warrant. You execute the warrant at dawn. You find the gun, the money, the suspect. You make the arrest. You write the case report. The case goes to trial. You testify. The jury convicts. 3 years in prison. You put someone away. Your cases get bigger. Burglary rings.
Detective is no joke. Depending on the department you're at my department, and it depends on what they have you, what type of cases they have you working on. But a detective at my department, it's like working a 9 to 5. They do what they need to do, but sometimes they stay over. Sometimes they're called in for serious situations, like during night shift and things like that. But most of the time, they're pretty lax. They're pretty cool. They do, depending on the department, have a lot going on their plate, and some do not. In my department, our detectives looked like they were chilling. They did what they needed to do. Once 5 o'clock hit, they was out of there. But they started off with, he said, "You're a detective and you get a robbery case." No, most likely, there's a very low chance that you're going to get something like a robbery when you first get into detectives. They're gonna start you on misdemeanors or very small things, such as probably petty theft or uh, what, man, I'm trying to, maybe larceny or so. I can't really think of it, but yeah, most of the time it's gonna be very small misdemeanor type stuff because they want you to get the hang of it. They're not gonna throw you on a murder or a homicide right away. You know what I'm saying?
Car theft operations, organized crime. You work with other agencies, state police, FBI, DEA. You're making a difference, solving cases, getting convictions. But you're also working 60 hours a week. You miss your kids' soccer games,
Depends on
your
the
anniversary
department.
dinner. Your marriage is strained. Your wife says you've changed. She's right. You have. Level 6, the sergeant. 12 years on the job, you're promoted to sergeant. You supervise a patrol squad now. 8 officers report to you. You don't work cases anymore. You manage people. You approve reports. You handle complaints. You make decisions. One of your officers uses excessive force. A suspect files a complaint. You investigate your own officer. You make recommendations. Your officer is disciplined. He's angry. He blames you. But you did what was right, even if it's unpopular. You respond to critical incidents. Officer-involved shootings, pursuits, barricaded suspects. You make command decisions, in the moment, under pressure. One of your officers shoots someone, a man with a knife. You secure the scene. You notify command staff. You start the investigation. The shooting is ruled justified, but your officer is traumatized. He can't sleep. He can't work. He eventually quits. You carry that weight. You approved the response. You sent him there. Level 7.
And so you sent him there. You get assigned calls, and if it's in your beat or your zone or your district, you're going to respond to that call. So it doesn't have anything to do with your sergeant. Like, hey, you're going to this call. Obviously, there are scenarios where they have that set up, but 9 times out of 10, you're responding to that call because it's in your area, or you're helping out another officer. It's as simple as that. Um, I don't I don't have any experience as a sergeant, so I don't know if you carry that weight because you approved the shooting situation, and then that person ends up quitting later down the line. From the sergeants I do know, I don't think they would take that personally. It's a part of the job, so they'll look at it as, hey, I understand, and we're gonna keep it moving. It's a constantly moving train. If somebody wants to jump off the train, cool, we're not gonna stop for you. And that's just how police departments are. That's how all businesses are ran. It's like we're not gonna stop for you. We got to keep going. You get what I'm saying? And then when it comes to the portion of just the whole supervisor role, there is some departments that do have a corporal position. The corporal position is right between an officer experience, an officer, and then a sergeant. That kind of gets you in the. It kind of teases a supervisor role. Actually, it is a supervision role, and you supervise to a certain extent, as well as you start learning how to. I mean, you start not learning, but you are able to approve reports. Um, so the sergeant doesn't really do that at those departments that really have a corporal unless he needs to or she needs to. But the corporal kind of handles the paperwork aspect and getting the hang of what it's like to be a sergeant at the corporal level. And then from there, you can move. Once you get out of the corporal level, you go up to sergeant and you know that job a lot better because they have that corporal role in between. Because going straight from an officer to a sergeant, I've seen some supervisors struggle with that because it's a big change. But they also have in some departments where they have you as a temporary supervisor, so you also get the hang of that as well by doing those roles. The lieutenant.
Lieutenant. 18 years in, you're promoted to lieutenant. You command a division, multiple squads, 50 officers. You manage budgets, schedules, training, discipline. You're more administrator than cop now. You sit in meetings all day, budget meetings, command staff meetings. You write policies. You review use of force incidents. You handle media relations, community complaints, political pressure.
Yeah, not depends on the department, but not really. No, usually most departments have a person specifically that deals with media and situations who stand up there and talk about stuff like that. And even if so, without that, like down here with certain sheriff's offices, the sheriff actually has that conversation, or the under sheriff right under him would have those would get up there and speak to media specifically. Or you got some police departments, like I stated, that actually have they hire somebody or they have an officer in that role that speaks directly to media. Um, and then it also depends on your department with the whole meetings. No, the lieutenants that I know, no, they're not in a bunch of meetings. Usually they're the they're called the watch commander. Because working night shift, they're the watch commander, or during day shift, they're also the watch commander as well. They're the ones who has the ultimate authority when it comes to patrol. So everything that goes on with patrol, that they take care of that. They are the last word when it comes to the patrol, especially at night, because there's no one above them usually working around that time. Me personally, in law enforcement, I think the sweet spot that I want to stop at is probably lieutenant, maybe captain, maybe captain. Specifically lieutenant, because lieutenants, from what I observe, they're not really in a bunch of meetings, and you also don't hit that level of command staff, which command staff is usually more of the 9 to 5. You're dealing with the paperwork, the operations, the things of that nature. You're more like an admin position. So yeah, with lieutenant, I still see myself getting on the road, still having fun, doing traffic stops, getting involved in things, writing reports. That's just what I see myself doing. I've seen some departments where the captain's still out there on the road. If the department that I'm working at, and I get to that point in my career, if there is an option to still be on the road, I can see myself getting on the road. Obviously, once my body is like, hey, you got to tap out, cool, it is what it is. But I would want to be out there still getting into the action or observing the action happening. I don't ever see myself doing a 9 to 5. But like I said, when I get older, maybe I'll slow down and be like, you know what, I'm cool with a 9 to 5, especially if I ever have kids and things of that nature.
The mayor wants more patrols, the community wants less enforcement. You can't make everyone happy. You make decisions that affect your officers' lives. Shift assignments, promotions, discipline. Some officers respect you. Some resent you. You're not their friend anymore. You're their boss.
Hey, it's a job at the end of the day, man. You can't please everybody.
Your marriage ended 3 years ago.
Mm.
Your kids live with their mother. You see them every other weekend when you're not working. Level 8, the captain. 22 years on the job, you're a captain now. You run an entire precinct, 200 officers, multiple divisions. You oversee patrol, detectives, community relations,
That's New York.
everything.
New York got the
You
precinct
report
thing. We don't
directly to
have
the
precincts
chief.
down here.
You manage crime statistics, response times, community satisfaction. The numbers matter. The city council watches them. Crime is up in your precinct. The chief wants answers. You implement new strategies, increase patrols, focus on hotspots. You're balancing enforcement with community relations. Too much enforcement, the community complains. Too little, crime goes up. An officer in your precinct is caught stealing. Evidence room drugs. It's your responsibility. You failed to supervise, to prevent it. The investigation is public. The media coverage is brutal. Your career is damaged. Your reputation tarnished. But you take responsibility. You implement reforms.
I don't I don't think that all would fall on the captain. Obviously, he would take a lot of it, um, but it would also trickle down as well. But yes, he obviously he would, from a captain's point of view, he'd be like he'd be speaking to the lieutenant, like, "What's going on? How did this happen? This, that, and the third." Then the lieutenant would speak to the sergeant. That's why they have that chain of command. But obviously, since he's the higher up, he would probably take a lot of it, but it'll also trickle down as well. It just depends on how bad it is with a situation like that. It's a pretty bad situation. So it all depends on how the sheriff or the chief of police would handle that situation. But I don't think, depending on how bad it is, I don't think it ultimately would come on to the captain. A lot of it would be on that officer, which most likely would be terminated, but a stern talking to or some type of write up maybe working its way up from the sergeant all the way up to a captain, depending on how bad the situation is.
You rebuild trust, slowly, carefully. Level 9, the deputy chief. 28 years in, you're deputy chief now, second in command of the entire department. You manage the entire organization, patrol, detectives, special operations, 3,000 officers, a budget of $200 million. You advise the chief, you implement policy, you handle crises. You're in meetings with the mayor, the city council, community leaders. An officer shoots an unarmed person, the video goes viral. Protests, riots, national media attention. You manage the response, the investigation, the fallout. You balance justice with protecting your officers. The shooting is ruled unjustified. The officer is charged. Your department is sued. Your city pays millions. You implement reforms, body cameras, de-escalation training, community oversight. But the damage is done. Trust is broken. You've given 3 decades to this job. You've missed everything: marriages, birthdays, life. You're exhausted. You're burned out. But you can't quit. Not yet. Not like this. Level 10.
Like I said, you got to find that balance. If you letting a job destroy your whole personal life, that means you did something wrong. I personally would just never let a job get to the point to where it's literally tearing my personal life apart. If it is, then I'll speak to my significant other. Hey, do we need to go speak to somebody? Do we need to go to therapy? Whatever the case may be. I'm gonna try and work it out, but I will never put my job over my family, if you get what I'm saying. I'm going to find that balance. And with law enforcement, and depending on your department, I get so many days off that there's no way I can't find that balance. But I'm not in that situation, so I can't speak too heavily on it. But I just know me. I'm just not a person who quits. So I figured out the best way I could, because I don't want to end up in a situation like that. Like I stated earlier, usually people who end up in a situation like that are the people who take their job way too seriously and then bleed their job into their personal life. It's like, nah, I want to have that cutoff. Once I clock out, I'm not thinking about prying doors, pulling out my firearm, being overly cautious for unnecessary reasons. There's situations that do require that in my personal life, but I'm not at the crib jumping up, doing all this, or having my gun right next to my dresser because somebody could kick in the door and hit, tuck and roll and fire here, fire there. Some people be overly complicating it, trying to be talking about some, I want to be prepared for this scenario, and that scenario. It's like, dude, just have a gun somewhere in the area. Wake up if some shit happen, you got it. Some niggas got the pistol, some niggas got the rifle, got the shotgun next to the kitchen, and then they got a sniper rifle in the attic. And it's like, bruh, relax. My goodness. This is not Z-Day. All right. Just relax.
10. The chief of police. 30 years on the job. You're the chief now. You run the entire department, the final authority. You answer to the mayor, the city council, the public. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an opinion. You manage a crisis every week. Shootings, scandals, budget cuts. You testify before the city council. You face the media. Crime is rising. Your officers are overworked. Your budget is shrinking. The public wants more police. The city won't pay for them. You make impossible decisions, cut services, reduce patrols. People will suffer, but you have no choice. You retire after 4 years as chief, 34 years total. There's a ceremony. The mayor speaks. Your officers attend. You receive a plaque, a handshake, a pension. You turn in your badge. You turn in your gun. You're done. You survived, but at what cost? Your health is broken. Your family is distant. You gave everything to this job. And somewhere, a young person is filling out an application. They want to serve, to protect, to make a difference. They have no idea what they're signing up for. The sacrifice, the trauma, the weight. But they'll...
Well, I'm gonna say, hey, find that balance. Find that balance. You don't have to end up like this animated guy. You don't have to end up like officers who put themselves in that situation. You can find that balance. It is possible. I know a lot of healthy officers doing just fine, having that life and a work balance, and family is doing and family dynamic is very healthy, and they're cool. And usually those people are the ones who can separate work from personal life. So if you find that balance, you're good. As well as, I just wanted to touch on, they went straight from captain to deputy chief. It depends on your department. Some don't even have certain ranks, but if it's a big enough department, they do go from captain to major, then colonel, and then you can get to the deputy chief position. So it just all depends. But other than that, I'm curious what you guys think. Any of you guys got law enforcement experience and want to add your little 2 cents in there, drop it in the comments. Other than that, drop a like, and I appreciate y'all for pulling up. Take it easy.